10 most common negative thinking patterns. And this is from Harvard University's Stress and Development Lab. And I want you to see if any of these situations happen when you are speaking. It could be speaking to random people, it could be speaking to 1,000 people, it could even be when you are doing video recordings. So here's number one, is the all or nothing thinking approach. If your performance falls short of perfect, you see yourself as a total failure. Maybe it's because you didn't give the example that you wanted to give. Maybe because you tripped over your words. And then you say, oh, that performance was not up to par and I failed, right? Have any of this happened to you before? Number two, overgeneralization. You see a single negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. Maybe something happened in your life, and every single time you do a speaking event, it comes back to it. Okay, I had a client, and she's one of the brightest, warmest people that I know. Like she's amazing, but she did a presentation a long time ago, and after her presentation, her boss said to her, "Hey, do you think that was a good presentation?" Because it wasn't. Now, the reason why her boss did not like her presentation, it was because she was telling too many stories. You know, her communication style was completely different from his. He was more analytical, data, 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 data. Do less talking, give us more data, get to the point more. But her style was more stories, more warm, more building relationships. So maybe that maybe you even have one of these negative events in your life, and every single time you present, it's coming back to haunt you. Number three, mental filter, right? You pick out a single negative detail and then you dwell on it, and then you usually fall into this endless loop of bad thoughts. So most of my clients usually have this as well. When they do a presentation, here are some examples of some thoughts. One thought could be, what if I mess up? And then when they start thinking, what if I mess up? They start thinking of all these different things. Or another thought could be an negative detail. I start hearing my voice. And because I'm hearing my voice, something in my head, now I'm thinking of all these other things that can go wrong. Well, here's the thing about the mental side of things too. Let's say my client, when he was thinking, oh, what if I mess up? Here's the thing. He used to play the guitar when he was young, and he used to be big. He used to be like in Las Vegas. And I asked him, did this happen in your days when you were playing the guitar? And he said, actually, sometimes yeah and sometimes no. So I said, what's the difference between sometimes yes and sometimes no? When he used to play the guitar and there were no lights in the audience, so it was just pitch black and it was him and his music, he said he would do really, 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 really good. But then the moments when he did not do so good were when the lights were on and he can actually see people. He started getting stuck in his head, right? Now, I want you to notice the lights on or the lights off. He was still playing the guitar. The same exact thing was just happening. The lights were just on or off. But because sometimes we focus on these little details, we start getting into our heads. And again, we fall into an endless loop of bad thoughts. So you might have some of these negative mental loops right now. Well, what are they? Write them down. Number four, disqualifying the positive, right? You reject positive experiences by insisting they don't count or they don't apply to you. I mean, how many times maybe have people have told you, oh, that was a great presentation. Maybe you just brush it off. And you're really brushing it off and saying, no, I'm not that good. I'm not a good storyteller. You know, I know someone who is I think they were a great storyteller. And when I tell them, hey, that was a great story, and I can see that they know internally, I'm not a good storyteller. You know, you're just telling me because you just want to tell me what I want to hear, right? No, maybe it's really positive and it's a real thing. Have any of this happened to you before? Number five, jumping to conclusions. And there's two things, mind reading and predicting the future as truths, right? You're making a negative interpretation even though in real life and reality, there's no definite facts that's convincing and supporting your conclusion, right? Mind reading. Well, what do I mean by mind reading? What do they mean by mind reading? Maybe you are talking, and this has happened to a bunch of people before. You're talking, and someone is making a face. and you're there, whether you're on Zoom or in person, and you're thinking, why is that person making a face? Did I say something wrong? I know I said something wrong. Now that person is thinking this way. Now they don't like it, okay? We are predicting or trying to predict what they're going to say, but it's kind of like we're reading their minds at that moment we're presenting, but at the same time, we're just creating these situations that's not really happening, right? Or we're also predicting the future as truths. So when that happens, we're going to say, oh, I'm going to go into this presentation, and we are already thinking that this future is truth. It could be, here are some examples. Oh, people are not going to like me because I'm so different. Like, to us, that's reality already. If we go into that speaking event thinking like that, oh, people are not going to like me because I'm not one of them. Oh, I'm not a good storyteller, and therefore the whole event it's not going to be good. My presentation is not going to be good. Maybe we see a future that we have already created in our mind, and we are adapting it to it that way. So are you jumping to conclusions? Number six, you're magnifying or minimizing the situation at hand or your thoughts or feelings, right? You exaggerate the importance of things. Maybe you goofed up and it's such a horrible goof up, right? Or you inappropriately shrink things until they appear tiny. It could be the way you say things, the good things that you have, and then you shrink them down because you don't think it's so important. I have a client. Every single time she might want to say something like her opinions, she's like, I'm not sure if that's such a good idea. I might not say that idea right now. It's not so good. Or many of us have failed before, right? Let's say magnification. Oh, I said a oh no, I said so many ums. I'm horrible. I'm horrible because I did this little thing. Most people probably haven't even noticed that we did this one little thing and we magnified it 100 times. Okay. Number seven, emotional reasoning. You assume that your negative emotions reflect the ways things really are. Basically, I feel it, therefore it must be true. I feel that the audience are bored, therefore it's true. I see that people's are not making any faces. They're just sitting there. I feel that they're not. I don't feel that people are energized. No, that's not exactly the truth. Sometimes, depending on the situation. Okay. Sometimes people say to me, "Kit, I feel like I'm not really hitting home with people. They're not making any body movements, facial expressions. They're just sitting in their seats." And I literally say to them, sometimes when you watch a good performance, maybe you're not that person that just raises the hands and move everything. Maybe you're silent. Your face is just the same. You're not making any movements, but inside you're loving it. I mean, have you ever felt that way before? You're not saying anything. Your body movements remains the same, but you are loving everything that the person, or maybe it's a musical, a magic performance, right? So if you feel it, sometimes other people are not feeling the same thing that you feel, okay? So you do have to, I'm not saying this is easy, but sometimes going back to the negative thinking, I feel it, therefore everyone feels it, and therefore it must be true. You do have to take a look at it and say, is this the truth sometimes? Yes, it is hard to know sometimes. And number eight, should statements. I should do this. I should do that. When you say this, oh, I should come up with this presentation. Oh, I should do that. It will seem like a chore, right? The difference between someone who loves to do it and should do it, right? Someone who loves to do it isn't going to say, oh, I should do this. It's a, yeah, I want to do this. This is something that I just do. It's normal for me. But if we're saying, I should, or, this is something, yeah, I'll get to it one day, I should, then it will seem like a chore. Or maybe there's something there that can make it more enjoyable for you instead of it being feeling like, oh, this is something I have to do, right? Number nine, labeling. So instead of describing your error, you attach a whole negative label to yourself. For example, I am a bad speaker. Maybe because you messed up on this one sentence, or maybe you gave a bad example, or maybe you did something bad during the presentation. Therefore, you're labeling yourself, I'm a bad speaker because I can't get people's attention. I'm this because I can't do that. I'm a bad speaker because I can't tell stories. No, it's the thing that you're trying to. If you want to become a better storyteller, maybe it's the structure of your story. If you don't think you are a good presenter, maybe it's the way you are structuring your presentation or the ideas that you have around it. Or maybe if you're not engaging people, no, maybe it's not because of your monotone voice, maybe because of the slides. There are so many different factors. It's just not you as a person. Look at what you are doing, right? Therefore, we can ask, okay, what can we fix now? What can we fix on the slides? How can we tweak this little thing? So labeling, instead of labeling it to yourself, really think about, okay, what is the error that I'm making and how can I improve upon that? Number 10, personalization. You see yourself as the cause of some negative external event in which you're probably not 100% responsible for. One that I see a lot in my clients is that they're saying, I am such a bad speaker, or I have a fear of speaking, or I'm not that good of a speaker because I can't handle the situation, or the situation is giving me nerves. On the outsider's view, okay, as a public speaking coach, if someone is nervous at public speaking, it is not 100% your fault. If you felt really comfortable in that situation, maybe it's a work situation that's high stakes, okay? It's not you, it's also 50% them. It's the other people. They're there to create a safe environment for you, a comfortable environment. The first time I started teaching at Harvard Business School, they asked me because the class is there, okay? I'm not sure if you know. The students' grades depended 50% on how much they spoke up. So a lot of their grades depended on what they actually have to say out loud. So every student was nervous because, imagine you were in a room filled with 50, 60 other students and you had to speak up. That's a nerve-wracking situation. It's not just the students, it's also the environment that's created from the other side. So that's just a tiny example of, don't personalize everything to you. Look at the outside too. Again, communication is a two-way street, right? Even though it's public speaking, communication in meetings, presentation, it's always your audience and you. So don't think of everything that you're doing bad just because of you. Take into account other people as well.